Hi, I'm Dr. Kerry Bodle and I'm the Griffith Business School Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Academic Director, and I'm here to give you just a little bit of an understanding of the importance of storytelling for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. So this topic, we're going to investigate how Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people use storytelling to pass on their history, knowledges and culture to future generations. So after you've covered the particular topics, you've gone through each of the resources and readings and presented everything that you need to understand about Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander history. We're now just going to look at the storytelling, and how they do this is through music, dance and art. So storytelling. Now storytelling for you probably is not a new sort of term, but for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, it's a way they actually call it yarning. We have yarning circles, so we can sit around in circles, and it could be around an open fire, it could be around just in the family houses, etc. But what they used to do is that they'd be sitting around and they'd be telling the stories of their past. And it's a way of explaining how they would understand the creation of the world, how their culture and the way that they communicate is really about expressing the stories of their experiences to help their younger generation understand what Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander cultures, are. So they use concepts and beliefs to pass on down through the generation, and how they do that is that they would sit down and they'd be telling them the story of, for example, you may come across a video or some presentations on the serpent and how they saw that the rivers were created by the snake, the serpent that went through the valleys, and that was what created the riverbeds. And there'll be other stories that they create, and it's usually around the areas to where they were born. So it could be land, it could be around the rivers, it could be near the oceans. So most of the stories would relate to how they believed that their clan groups and their language groups actually were created. So by using music, song and dance, now I don't know whether you've actually had an experience of listening to didgeridoo and watching some of the dances. It's different, very different from an Aboriginal to a Torres Strait Islander way that they use the music, song and dance, but that's pretty much relative because of the distance and where Aboriginal people come from the Australian mainland compared to Torres Strait Islander. The Torres Strait Islander, being of all the islands, most of their dancing and songs are around water, whereas with the Aboriginal Australian, it could be somewhere in the desert, it could be somewhere next to sort of the rainforest, or it could be around islands or the water. So you watch the dancing and it'll be that they'll take on images of, could be animals, it could be looking at anything that they regard as creating an understanding of the stories of how they came to be, how the world was created, and how that they've got these different traditions that they want to pass on. It's like passing on, a photo album from father to mother and to their children. You sit around and you tell stories of the past. Well, for Aboriginal people, they usually do that through trying to relate what they saw into the current contemporary ways of things through storytelling. So you'll see now a lot of the Aboriginal art. It's just amazing when you look at the way it's progressed. It's generally through the black, the red and the yellow. You'll see Torres Strait Islanders are generally in the blues and whites, so that's again reflective of where they come from and where their creation and their clans come from. But a lot of the art is then, again, you'll see that they'll have stories. Now, any authentic art, especially from the Aboriginal art, you can actually turn over the painting and you'll find that the artist will give you a short story of what the picture is all about. So this is, the topic has been about looking at storytelling. You know, again, I use storytelling throughout my teaching, and I find that, you know, if you are looking at understanding and putting this in the context of your experience in engaging with Australia and Asia, try and look at the ways that, you know, we're trying to look at stories to help explain how Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander traditions, knowledges and cultural practices are for a business, you know, degree.